And welcome, Hoosier fans, to another victorious episode of Doing the Work, the first show on the Back Home Network dedicated to covering IU women's basketball. Today is our 135th episode, recorded on Sunday, November 17th, 2024. And I'm your host, Kathy Amos, joined tonight by my co-host, Jeff Marlow. And today we will be breaking down your Indiana Hoosiers 79-66 victory win over the number 24 Stanford Cardinals that now brings their record to 2-2 on the year. But we'll start this show off the same way we do every show, and that is with our banner moment. And Jeff and listeners, for me, I'm actually going to go towards the end of the third quarter for my banner moment. And, this was in a game where I think we'll be talking about a number of different players that had some really great games, especially compared to what we have seen earlier in the year in our first 2 or 3 games. But around the 3-minute mark, Yarden Garzone, who just really found her stride today, I thought, and just everything from rebounding to defense to hustle to shooting, put up 2 back-to-back threes, and that ended up putting Indiana up 38-53 and forced a Stanford timeout there late into that third quarter. And, it just really felt to me that was a pivotal play for us, a pivotal moment, and for me, our banner moment, because it just really exemplified a lot of the things that the team had been struggling with that finally was clicking for them today. And in particular, I think their 3-point shooting has been really off this year. And again, the defense as well. We held Stanford to 66 points. Now, Stanford is number 24 in the country, and they have been averaging over 90 points per game in their first 4 games. So in that in that banner moment, we had Yarden hit a 3. We go down, we played solid defense, and we came down and Yarden hit another back-to-back 3. And it really highlighted both ends of the floor for us today, our 3-point shooting and Yarden's playmaking ability, as well as our defense on the other end. And so for me, that was our Hoosier Proud banner moment, which is brought to you by Home Field Apparel, the presenting sponsor of the Back Home Network, who includes the Assembly Call, Crimson Cast, X's and Joe's, and the Dribble Drive. Home Field is constantly releasing new schools or updating their products for schools in their existing product line. So you're bound to find something for you or anyone in your life that just loves great collegiate gear. Not only do you get great quality apparel, but you are supporting an Indiana-based business that has its roots in the Kelley School of Business. So go to homefieldapparel.com and use our promo code HOME23 to get 15% off your entire first order. Again, that's promo code HOME23 for 15% off. And the website is homefieldapparel.com. Wear one for the team. All right. Well, normally here we would do some news, but Jeff, unless you saw something between Wednesday and today, I don't think we'll have anything. So we'll kick it directly over to you for Marlow's musings. So Jeff, what's on your mind today after our victory over those Stanford Cardinals?
Solid win. Obviously, I'm not trying to be Mr. Obvious here, but solid win coming off the 2 losses you had. Really, the first 3 games did not look like what we thought this team was going to look like. And knowing from what little bit I saw post game on Wednesday night after the Butler game, there was a long heart-to-heart talk in that locker room. And I got a feeling there was some long talks when they got back to Bloomington among the coaches and the players among themselves. But it was the best we've seen this team. And again, we also need to be realistic. This is not the same team as the past. This is not the Grace Berger, Alexa Golbe, Mackenzie Holmes teams. This team is going to have to find different ways to win. And it has got to be a team. And the one thing with that is this team has a little bit less margin for error. But today, I thought looked like the team we thought we were going to see on day one. And again, I thought the announcers made some really good points, Kathy, that even though we didn't go out and get a ton in the portal, you're trying to put Shea into a spot that she hasn't been used to in our system. You're trying to fit Strickland in. You also are without. I put this in the Discord. I was really worried about the foul trouble because we're already down 2. and we're not deep to begin with. We only played really 8 players today, and without Lex, without Lene, you're down 2 people who really could help you. Now, Lex was reported to be off her crutch today and was warming up a little bit, so maybe we'll see her in the next week or so. I still would like to see Lene back as well, but obviously she seems to be a little more long term since she wasn't even seen to be warming up today. But again, it's not the same team. Was I disappointed in the first 3 games? Was I very disappointed in the last game, especially? Yes. But if you can learn something from it and move on as you go down the line, there's enough quality games in the Big Ten that if they just continue to improve and play the way they did today or some semblance to that, there's enough quality wins there that I don't think we're going to have to worry about too much. But I want to save some of my other stuff for the pivotal plays.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, that's a great segue, Jeff. We'll just go into it, and we'll do pivotal plays and pivotal themes, if you will, as well. And for me, I'm just going to start off with something that I thought the coaching staff did a nice job of drawing up some plays, both to start the game and after some timeout. So there's a couple of plays to really get our ladies into a good position to be able to score offensively and get them started off on a good foot. So even right out of the gate, we had a really great offensive set to start, getting Sydney the ball down low for 2. Then same thing in the second quarter, another great offensive set. This time we got Lily down for 2. That put us up 22-26. After a timeout, they drew up a play that really helped move the ball, and Yarden hits a 3 at the 6:30 mark, and we were up now 24-33. And for me, those were just a couple of the examples of, I thought, things that the coaching staff did really well and that our players executed really well that helped set the momentum from the beginning and kind of went through the day, in my opinion, on some of the things that we saw offensively. And we'll get into it a lot more as we continue on talking about this game. But, this was a different team than we've seen in the last couple of games offensively. Midway through the third quarter today, as an example, we had more points than we had in the entire game in Butler. So clearly they were clicking a lot better today offensively. So that was one of the first things I wanted to point out, Jeff. But how about you? Let me kick it over to you. What kind of pivotal plays or themes do you have?
For me, it was pace. They came out and they were pushing tempo. They were, even if they missed, I felt like they looked better. I felt like there was more of a purpose to the flow of the offense. I would love to see them play this way the rest of the time. I thought, obviously, cutting down the turnovers was huge through the first 3 quarters. They only had 6 through the first 3 quarters, but my thing is I love the pace because I think you can overcome some of your deficiencies by playing with pace and putting the other team at disadvantages defensively when you're playing with pace. And so my first pivotal theme that I'm kind of go with here today, not so much plays, but themes, is that I thought pace was huge. The second thing I thought they moved the ball with purpose. It didn't stagnate. It didn't get caught. They didn't, the ball didn't stall, as we used to tell as when I was coaching. The ball didn't stall. The ball moved and people got open. And I also thought that players were, and because of that, because of the pace, because the ball moved, it opened some driving lanes that maybe hadn't been there the first couple of games. So I think the two go together, but those are my first 2 pivotal themes is pace and purpose.
Yeah, absolutely. The other thing, I just thought we did some really nice jobs, to your point earlier when you were talking about your Marlow's Musins and getting our transfers in. Shay Chesky in particular, she's been starting every game for us, and her play offensively is not what we were expecting to come into from Penn State. But today was the day I thought Shay hopefully had her breakout game for us as a Hoosier. She ended up with 19 points on 7 of 13 shooting, including 2 of 3 from the field and 3 of 4 from the free throw line, and only 3 turnovers today. And, and that's something, we'll get into when we get into more of the numbers. But, I thought Shay as well had a lot of really good hustle plays and things that, she helped finish plays. So an example I have is the first quarter, Chloe Moore McNeil had her second steal of the day with only, 4 minutes into the game that led to a fast break by Chesky, who got a 2. Same thing in the fourth quarter happened. 2.5 minutes left. Chloe gets another steal, leads to a Shay Chesky fast break layup. And that put us up 57-73. So there were a lot of plays like that as well, where not only was she generating some offense, but she was doing it by helping to finish plays that her teammates were starting on the other end of the court. So I thought we saw a lot of that today. That was another theme I wanted to talk about, Jeff, and get your thoughts on, was our defense. Again, I mentioned we held Stanford to 66 points. They were also leading the country in 3-point shooting, and today we held them to shooting only 18% from 3-point land. 18%. Yeah. The team that is leading the country early into the year, but early into the year, they were putting their name and their stamp on those huge wins by shooting the 3 ball, and we held them to 11 today. But what are your thoughts on the defense today? Because I thought it was ratcheted up as well. We were able to stay in man-to-man the whole game too. No zone at all.
I think they go hand in hand. I think the pace and the purpose on offense, and obviously you can say which one's first, but you played with some purpose on defense too. I thought the defense was locked in the way we thought. I'm kind of waiting to save some individuals till we get to kind of hand out game balls, but and hustle awards. But we saw some effort today, Kathy. I think you and I both agree. We saw some effort today out of some people that we questioned on Wednesday. And I got a feeling they got called out in the locker room. I'm not saying they did. I have no inside knowledge, but I would rather guess that at this level, a couple of them got called out either in the locker room after the game Wednesday or back in Bloomington on Thursday about you're supposed to be leaders. You should be doing things that we shouldn't have to ask for you to do. You should be doing these things just because you've been here for a long time. And I thought that was key. And I thought it showed up both defensively. I thought it showed up offensively. The other thing I'll point out too, and I'm not sure whether it was a hurt or a help for IU, but the game was called, interestingly, it's kind of tight. There was 47 fouls called, and a lot of them were away from the ball.
And a lot in the second half too.
Yeah, well, and just so I'm not sure if that helped us or hurt us, because maybe we wouldn't have been maybe we wouldn't have matched up as well physically. But I don't think that. I mean, to me, that's the way IU wants to play. I don't think Coach Morin's afraid to have her kids be physical, but especially when they're being called off the ball. I get it. If you're calling a foul on a shooter on a drive, okay, fine. You got to make those adjustments. But there was a lot of fouls away from the ball today that I hadn't seen called in a long time, or at least at the rate they were called today. So that was the other pivotal theme there, because then it led to a lot of free throws. Indiana shot 24 free throws. They shot 17. So you had 41 free throws, combined in the game.
Yeah. And luckily we were draining most of them too. We made 83% of our free throw, which I will take on any day. Yep. Another kind of theme that I thought we had to, just to start talking a little bit about individual players, I thought we had some nice minutes in there from Jules Lamandola and from actually from Hannah Sandbeck as well off of the bench. Now, again, not points wise, but I thought they came in and put in some really great hustle plays. They both took charges today, as an example. Jules drew that charge in the third quarter that ended up putting IU into the bonus at the 5:15 mark. And then Sandbeck, I think hers came in the fourth quarter. And I thought those were really huge pivotal plays for well. And they were done by a couple of people coming in off our bench. Again, short bench. We're down 2 players still. So we only played 8 in a rotation. But I thought Jules and Hannah Sandbeck in particular came in and gave us some really nice minutes that, they each played exactly 17 minutes. Hannah, I thought, had some really great defensive stops, and I thought Jules as well had some really great moments. But what was your thought on those 2 players in particular coming off at the bench?
I'd like to see more of Jules. I know Jules didn't give us a lot of offense, but I think she would give us a little bit more if she got some more consistent minutes. She had 17 today, but I thought Jules was huge. 17 minutes, she had 3 rebounds. She only had the 1 point, but I thought she was very effective defensively. The other thing I just want to kind of go to, Kathy, is from an individual. I liked how we were getting Lily away from the basket a little bit, using her more as a screener out away from the basket, and then either letting her roll, or what I'd also like to see maybe is have them get her the ball in that high post to mid post area and see if she can knock down a 15-footer consistently, or use that to draw a post player defender away from the basket and maybe get a step or so. Because I'm not sure that Lily's at her best being a true back to the basket player. I think she can be all right and she'll do fine, but I'd like to see them use her a little bit more facing the basket. And I thought they did that, especially toward the end of the first half, where they did. But then she got in foul trouble in the third quarter and set a lot of the second half, really. So, but I really want to see. I'd like to see that as well. From an individual standpoint, maybe use Lily a little more as a screener away from the bucket and see if we can draw and maybe open up some stuff as well.
Yeah, let's talk a little bit about Lily and her foul trouble that kind of led into some interesting lineups and some interesting choices. So I wanted to get your thoughts on this. So, Lily got that third foul, or she had two fouls for a long time into the second quarter, and they did not pull her. She got her third foul late in the second quarter. Then 8 seconds into the second half, she got her fourth foul, and she still stayed in there and played another minute before they finally subbed in Soundvik. And now they moved Yarden Garzon down to the 5. And so we were playing a really small lineup and, more of that 5 out on offense. And I was wondering defensively if it might hurt us. And I really didn't think so. But I thought we saw, especially in the second half, a lot of different lineups that I never was expecting to see this year. But that one in particular with Garzon at the 5, I know we had heard that they might try that, and they finally did today, mainly out of foul trouble. But I wonder, because it felt like it worked today. I wonder if we see that more purposefully going forward. But what was your thought once we had to move to that smaller lineup in that third and fourth quarter?
Well, they didn't have any choice. So you really,
yeah. But how do you think?
I wouldn't call it. I wouldn't call. I'm not sure. I go along. I would go and be like, "Oh, great coaching move," because I really didn't think they had any choice. They could have put Stripling in, but I don't think they really are trying to get much past 10, 12 minutes with Stripling right now, because they could have got way more minutes for Stripling today and didn't. I like the small lineup. I posted that in the Discord. I would have put Jules in at that point. They came with Sandvik, but I would have put Jules in and gone small. From that standpoint, but I liked it. I liked going small. And again, I think that allows them to play with pace. I think it allows them to open some things up offensively in terms of driving lanes and create some mismatches. I'd like to see a little more of it. I do have to say this, somebody on the coaching staff effed up. Somebody on the coaching, because there's no way. First of all, they played with fire. Okay, I've done that. I've been there. You try to get another minute or two for Lily at the end of the half, because you still had about 3 minutes to go when she had the second foul. But once it got down to about a minute and a half, there's got to be somebody on that staff who's being like, we need to get her out now. And so if you do that, she doesn't get her third foul at the end of the half. And now she gets a quick foul at the beginning of the third quarter. Now you can make the decision, do you play her with 3 or do you set her? Now they may still set her, but I put that on the staff a little bit. That's not as much on, and Lily's got to know too, but yeah, I put that as much on the staff letting her get third foul there when they didn't really have to.
Yeah, I agree. And yeah, so she definitely had to have known it was a little bit ticky tack when they called that fourth foul too. And that was when
third foul.
Yeah, that too. But that fourth one in particular, I think I looked at Sean like, gosh, I hope they're not going to start how they're calling the game or change how they're calling the game now. And I thought they did. And I just really struggle with that, because I think it's hard for the players. You get into one mindset, you go into halftime, you talk about it, you talk about adjustments. And part of that is how they're calling the game. And then you come out and they start changing it. But anyway, back to you.
I felt like they were calling, at least the beginning of the second half, I felt like they were still calling stuff off the ball way more than they were on the ball. And so that part hadn't changed, and Lily needed to be a little smart. I mean, they had a couple fouls on Stanford that where the camera was still basically in the back court, and they were calling a foul down the front court on Stanford. So I was not a happy person with the officiating today, because I felt like they input themselves into the game by calling some of that stuff off the ball that really could have been let go and such. But that's my opinion.
I agree with you. A lot of their calls were questionable too. So like a lot of the jump balls that they called there at one point, they had a couple back-to-back jump balls. And I'm like, well, I don't know how there was no contact on either one of them. But anyway, we digress. So back to the game, Jeff, any other pivotal plays or pivotal themes, or do you want to start diving into the numbers? And we started touching on them a little bit. So let's
hit the numbers.
All right, let's do it. Why don't you go first? Do you want to talk about some team numbers that really jumped out to you?
Yeah, obviously shot the ball. They shot the ball the best really they have all season so far. And I know we're only 4 games in, but again, I thought it came from pace. I thought it came from moving with purpose. They shot 49% from the field against a quality opponent. I mean, this was a number 24 Stanford team that's going to win a lot of games. And then they shot 47% from 3. So the two went hand in hand. And then, like you said, Kathy, they shot 83% at the line. So shooting all around has to be the most notable number for me.
Yeah, absolutely. The other one that jumped out to me that we absolutely have to mention is turnovers today. So we ended up with only 11 turnovers. So we were finally back down to where we have as a goal, as opposed to some of those gaudy numbers in the last couple of games that we saw, which really, back to your point, you're turning the ball over. You cannot play with pace and really get into any kind of rhythm and flow on offense. So I thought turnovers today was something that they had to clean up, and I was really going to be watching for, and they absolutely did. So they ended up with 11 turnovers, 10 for Stanford. So, about even there on the turnovers, the same thing with points off of them, 11 for Stanford and 13 for us. But to me, it was more important that we were able to keep the ball and be able to generate those offensive possessions, where we just haven't been able to do that so far this year. So hopefully that's the theme now that continues, that they value that ball and being able to have more offense. So what about you? What's next on your list?
Well, I'll agree with the turnovers, and you had 5 of those in the fourth quarter. 5 of the 11 were in the fourth quarter. And that's where I posted on the Discord. I really felt like that's where you need your leadership to step up. And that's where Chloe, Yarden, I can't remember if Sid was on the floor or not, but Shay, those are your veteran guards. They have to be able to handle the ball without turnover. And some of that was offensive fouls, which also count as turnovers. There were 2 or 3 there, but you got to be smarter than that. Shay got to push off against the press, and a cheap foul, but again, you can't have that turnover there. There was another foul. I think maybe even Shay got one in the half court on a push off or a charge. Those got to be cleaned up in the fourth quarter. That, especially when you really weren't even driving to the basket, you were just kind of trying to move side to side. So, from that standpoint. So that's those things with the turnovers. I'll go assists here. They had 13 assists, which doesn't sound like a lot on their 25 made baskets, but at least percentage wise, that was better than what they were at Butler the other day in terms of their assist percentage. But I'm not sure this team is going to assist on as many baskets. I think we're going to see more breakdown like we saw today. We had some nice passes. Don't get me wrong. A couple that should have been, but weren't because we missed the basket, missed the bunny. I can think of Striplin missing one. Lily missed one. But overall, I thought this team, if they can get to that kind of 50% assist percentage, I think you're going to see more drive opportunities for Shay, Chloe. Sid missed a drive. It wouldn't have been an assist, but she had a nice drive, but missed the shot. So I think we're going to see more of that type of play this year rather than move and cut passing that we've used to, or just, again, a lot of assists for ours. Let's face it, a lot of our assists were dumping it into the post to McKenzie Holmes and finishing. So, but I thought the assist number was good today.
Yes, that's exactly what I was going to talk about to piggyback off of. I think we're going to see a shift this year. Obviously, we're not going to have as many points generated out of our post play. It's going to be more guard play, which, I think, may or may not come with the assist, and maybe because they're generated on their own and driving it. So I think you're right. I think you really grabbed onto something there that we'll probably continue to talk about this year. We have to get our mind around that this is a different team. Coach Moore already talked about in the preseason that they were going to be doing more Princeton type offense and more 5 out. That means probably less assists and less dumping it down. One number I wanted to point out here, Jeff, is rebounding. So we out-rebounded Stanford today, 32-35, which is fantastic for this team. We have not also been, known for rebounding. Even last year, we were struggling sometimes with rebounding. A couple of things with that. So on the positive side, great rebounding, and it was spread around. It was a team effort in rebounding today. In fact, our highest rebounder was actually accredited to the team with 9. So they had 9 team rebounds. And the next after that was Garzone with 8. But everybody that played outside of Caroline Striplin had at least 2 rebounds or more. So that include 8 for Garzone and 6 for Lily Meister. So not just a great rebounding effort, but it was a great team rebounding effort. Now, on the negative side, they did still have allow Stanford to have more offensive rebounds than us with 13 that led to 9 second chance points for them. So still need to clean that up a little bit, and hopefully we can figure out how to hit that defensive glass a little better. But all around, I thought our rebounding effort today was much, much better than what we've seen thus far in the season as well.
Oh, yeah, I agree. Still got to clean up the offensive rebounding, or our defensive rebounding, and not giving up so many offensive rebounds. But if you also look at that, 4 of those offensive rebounds were basically dead ball rebounds. But again, you still got to find a way to grab them so they don't become dead ball offensive rebounds. The other thing I'll point out here, You mentioned a little bit about 3-point shooting. We held them to 40%. The team that was, if they weren't leading field goal percentage, they were in probably the top 5 on field goal percentage coming in. And so held them to 40%. Thought again, the defense was really locked in. I thought they were active defensively. Got a lot of hands on balls. You go back to that. We had 5 steals. Sure seemed like we had a lot more than 5 but still 5 steals is a big number out of your 10 turnovers that you force. So I kind of, that all kind of combines the rebounding, the steals, the active hands.
That's right. That's exactly right. So how about from a team perspective, Jeff, any team numbers? If not, we can dive into some individual play next if you didn't have any more team ones.
No, I'm good on the team.
Okay. Well, before we jump into game ball, I think there's a few players I wanted to talk about that we probably won't be talking about with game ball. One of those is Sydney Parrish. So Sydney Parrish today ended up with 28 minutes and 7 points and 2 of 7 shooting, including 1 of 3, hit both her free throws and had 2 rebounds. A little bit less of a game from Sydney today in terms of minutes. I thought her hustle was really, really there, but for whatever reason, and I know you had put as well into our Discord chat that perhaps her foot is hurting her more than maybe we realized, or maybe, coach was just not seeing something from her on the defensive end, why she kept, Sandvik out there a little bit more than maybe I was expecting it. But overall, I didn't have any issues with Sydney's play today.
No.
But what do you think of her 28 minutes that she gave us today?
I thought Sid gave us a good 28 minutes. I'd like to see more scoring. I'd like to see her find her shot a little bit. I don't think Sydney's necessarily going to stop shooting, but I also think there's a part of me that when I watch Sydney, if she doesn't hit her first couple shots, it seems like she really doesn't get as aggressive looking for it. I mean, she played 28 minutes, only had 7 shots. Now you can also say the others picked it up, and she knew that she was willing to give up some of her offensive game to help the others. But you look at, for typical Sid, she only had 2 rebounds. So, and the only reason I brought up the foot/lower leg is because we had a game, was it the Harvard game or the Brown game? I can't remember which, where she kind of came off and was hobbling a little bit. And if you've had a foot injury, broken foot, whatever it really was last year, I don't know if they ever really did officially say what it was. Those things can be kind of, I hate to say chronic, but those nagging. Sometimes nagging. Thank you. That's a good word for it. And so I just wonder if, they were trying to manage a little bit here today, especially since they had a lead, but knowing that we are still limited on depth. So, but that I don't know. I'm speculating. I don't have any inside knowledge there. So one other person I'll talk about here, and you mentioned it already, but that was Jules. Again, Jules didn't pack the stat line, but I thought Jules gave us a great 17 minutes. I really did. I would like to see her get a few more minutes, but I thought she really gave us a good 17 minutes.
Yes, I did too. I thought she looked really good. So let's see. I think that probably we'll save the rest for talking around the game ball and the hustle, where I think that's going to be centered around probably 3 people that we'll need to decide between. One last number real quick, 10,300. That was the crowd for today. And then real fast, Ari gave us an update from the press conference. Lex is progressing well and will return to practice this week and potentially play in the Bahamas. However, Lene is not progressing as well and could be out for some time yet. So that's our update on our 2 injured players. So, all right, now we will go to game ball. For those of you who are watching on YouTube, you can see the scroll at the bottom. So in our first 3 games, Sydney had 2 of the game balls and Lily Meister had 1 of them. So Jeff, I mentioned, I think you could probably go 3 different ways here if you wanted to on this. For me, it came down to really 2 players. But let's talk through this and see who we end up giving our game ball to. Why don't you go first?
Well, I think you could have the discussion about Shea, Yarden, or Chloe. I think any one of them can be in the discussion. I lean toward Yarden here. She had the fewest points of the 3. I mean, it was not that big a difference. She had 18 points on 6 of 12 shooting, 4 of 7 from beyond the arc, 2 of 2 at the line. I thought Yarden really was more aggressive today. Now, it took a while. I was starting to become concerned kind of midway through the first half, really, that she still hadn't looked like she wanted to be very aggressive, but then she found it a little bit and then really took off from there. But she also had 8 rebounds. She had 3 assists and a steal in 36 minutes. So I'm going to go with Yarden here for my game ball.
Yeah, I agree. I think you can go 3 different ways. Like you mentioned, Shea Chesky, Yarden Gozlon, or Chloe Moore McNeil. All 3 of them I thought had really great and complete games. And they each played 35 minutes or more, with Shea at 38, Yarden at 36, and Chloe at 35. They were there for, obviously the leading scorers for the team as well. And I had the debate finally at the end of the day in my head between Yarden and Chloe. I thought Chloe really showed leadership, like you had mentioned from the very, very tip. She was aggressive looking for it, but I thought she lost a little bit of that aggressiveness in terms of offensive progression in that second half. But I thought Yarden played probably one of her better games. And so for me, I landed on Yarden as well. Again, 18 points and 8 rebounds as well. And so for me, what really sealed it was probably the rebounding and just her intensive, her defensive intensity for me really was ratcheted up today from what we had seen, and a lot of emotion from her in that second half. So it was really great for her, for me, at least, to see her trying to get the crowd fired up as well. So that was a lot of fun for me to watch. So I thought Yarden played really well, but so we'll end up giving that game ball to Yarden this time. But not mad at other people who might disagree with this, because it was good games by all three. But let's go over to our Grace Berger hardest worker, Jeff. So again, for those watching, we have 3 games and we have 3 different Grace Berger hardest workers. We have Caroline Striplin, Yarden Garzone, and Shay Chesky. But how about today? Who do you have?
I'm going to go Chloe here. I mean, you can make the argument for Shay with 19 points and 2 of 3 from the beyond the arc, 3 of 4 free throws, 3 rebounds, couple assists, but she had 3 turnovers. I think that's what's going to be the tipping point for me here. You look at Chloe's game today. She led the team in scoring. In fact, she was the game high scorer, 21 points on 7-11, 2 of 5 from beyond the arc, 5 of 6 at the line, 2 rebounds, 2 assists, and 4 steals for Chloe. And that's where I'm going to go here. I'm going to side slightly with Chloe on my Grace Berger hardest work.
Yep. I did the same thing, Jeff. I looked a little bit at Shay, but the 4 turnovers, again, as our point guard, I understand she's going to be with the ball a lot more. And she was really getting hounded by Stanford, especially in that fourth quarter. So I understand that. And again, those at least 1 or 2 of her push-offs were kind of, questionable calls, but regardless, I ended up with Chloe as well. I thought her leadership at the beginning of the game in particular really stood out for me, but her defensive intensity was really ratcheted up and back to the Chloe Moore McNeil defense that I think we've seen in the past, couple of years from her. And so for me, I agree with you. I landed on Chloe Moore McNeil. So that gives Chloe her first hardest worker of the year award for us. So real quick, we'll kind of finish our quick numbers watch. So we're looking at 2 players this year we're keeping our eye on. One is Chloe Moore McNeil. She is getting close to that 1,000 points mark. So 21 points today really got her closer. Her new total is now 853. She's also moving up on the assist watch, on the assist list. She was already 10th coming into the year. She is now at 3 assists away from tying for 9th with 363. And then Yarden is getting close to 1,000 points. Her 18 is put her at 776 points this year, and 3-pointers made. She had 4 today, so she now has 141 3-pointers made. So if she gets to 157, she will move into the top 10. So really great play from both of those ladies today, I thought. So Jeff, before we move on to any upcoming game, any last takeaways from today's game that you want to make sure we touch on?
No, I've hit everything I want.
All right. Well, we will move on then. Our next game will be played down in in the Bahamas. We will be playing in Colombia. This is the Battle for Atlantis on the women's side. That game will be Saturday, November 23rd. That tip time is 4 Eastern, 3 Central. It will be aired on Flow Hoops. So if you don't have a subscription like Jeff and I don't have, you can also listen to Austin Render through various apps and streaming devices that you can have out there. Jeff, I couldn't find any history between these 2 teams. Did you find anything? But I've never saw where I thought that they played.
I don't think they've played.
Okay, cool. Well, let me talk a little bit about their coach, and then if you want to touch on Columbia and what they've done thus far, then that might wrap us up. But Megan Griffith is their 9th year head coach for Columbia. She used to play for Columbia. She graduated in 2007. She is the winningest coach at Columbia with a nice winning record of 122-84. Last year, they made it to the NCAA. I believe that was the first time that they made it with an at-large bid. The year before that, they were the WNIT runner-up. So the last few years in particular, they've really been coming on in that Ivy League as well. So I thought Columbia is going to be an interesting test for them. But what do you know about Columbia so far this year, Jeff?
Nothing.
Me too. Candidly, other than what's on paper.
Yeah, the way we looked up. But Columbia was 3-0 going into yesterday. I didn't look up to see what they did against Villanova yesterday. But they've been averaging 75 points a game after beating Stony Brook. Providence, which was a nice win in overtime, just because they're beating a Big East school in Providence. So, and as you mentioned, Kat, this is a Columbia team that has really kind of risen over the last couple of years towards the top of the Ivy. They were the Ivy League. If I remember right, they were the Ivy League. In fact, the only way I think they got in at large is they won the Ivy League regular season last year and then got beat in the tournament final. And I think that was why they were able to get in that large bid, because normally the Ivy's not getting 2 bids.
That's right.
It's just not usually happening. Even on the men's side, they're usually not getting 2 bids. From that standpoint. So in fact, I remember a lot of discussion about that team last year toward the end of the year about how well they had played and whether or not they could sneak in with an at-large bid if they lost in the conference tournament, especially in the conference final. They have 4 players averaging double figures. They're led by Riley Weiss, a 5'10" sophomore guard who's averaging 15. Perry Page, a 5'11" junior swing guard forward, 13 a game and 10 rebounds a game. That leads the team, which, by the way, a 5'11" kid having a double-double is pretty impressive, even if it's for only 3 games. So that's all we really know about Columbia. And again, I won't be watching because I'm not paying for Flow Hoops, but we'll try to listen to Austin if I can. The football game is going to take most of my energy, so
that's
I may
right.
have to try and listen to it later on some type of delayed broadcast or something.
Yeah, that's right. Okay, so Sam posted in our chat here that they lost yesterday to Villanova only by 1. So I don't know, again, enough about Columbia to give any great insight. But again, this is not, we already know this from experience now with Harvard and Butler. They cannot go down to the Bahamas and take any of these games for granted. They have to come in and show the same intensity against Columbia that they did today against the number 24 Stanford at home. They really need to go down there and take care of business. They kind of dug themselves a little bit of a hole. And if they go down and lose to another team, even though Columbia is looking pretty good against other teams, they cannot drop yet another game. Not that there's a must win in November and all of that, but they do have a bit of a hole. And I think that they're really going to have to ratchet up that intensity and maintain it from what they had today. So that is what I'm going to be, I guess, listening for. But yes, I might be listening to this game and trying to decompress from whatever goes on in the Ohio State football game. So, which will be almost back to back. But yeah, no big insights, but they will have, I think it's 3 games back to back, right? They'll play Saturday and then Sunday, and then hopefully Monday they'll be in the championship game, which if that happens, then that game will be on one of the ESPN channels. So we'll try to keep everybody updated. Jeff and I are talking about our schedule. We will probably not, just because we won't be watching this game, we probably will not do a live post-game show. So keep an eye on our Twitter account and on Substack if you're on Substack with us, and we'll be sure to post when we do figure out when our next podcast will be, but it probably will not be after the Columbia game. So we'll try to keep people updated in other veins. So let's talk real quick about what's been going on around the Big Ten though, Jeff. So not a whole lot has really happened. We had Thursday, Northwestern beat Utah 71-69 in Evanston. But other than that, it's just some games to kind of look for. While we're talking, I'll try to look up what Iowa is doing today. Have you looked by any chance?
No, I'm not. No offense. I'm not. I wasn't looking at Iowa, but is that reason that Northwestern wins, that that Northwestern win looks better, is that's a Utah team that may not be playing its best basketball either, but has been a pretty perennial NCAA tournament team over the last 8-9 years. So that's a good win, even though Northwestern had 2 of the probably worst losses along with Indiana in the Big Ten so far. They found a way to get a big win that. And if Utah turns around and ends up making the tournament, that win's going to look better for Northwestern, which will make the other Big Ten teams look better when they're beating Northwestern. So it's more about what's down the line, the fact that Northwestern was able to get that win in terms of what it helps with the kind of the conference perception. Yeah.
Okay, so I'll just run down other games people might want to take a peek at. Iowa is playing Drake right now at Drake. Iowa's up 71-60 at the end of the third. Wednesday, we have Kansas coming into Iowa as well. Auburn is coming into Oregon on Wednesday. On Friday, Nebraska will be traveling to Creighton to play there. Saturday, I put this one on here because it is some common opponents. Harvard is going to be up in Northwestern. So that is an intriguing one to kind of watch on, because now we have a common opponent and one that just, knocked off Indiana. Now, are they going to be able to go up to Northwestern and do the same thing? So I think that it will tell us a lot about that Harvard team in particular. Saturday as well, Georgia is going to Penn State, and then a really huge matchup on Saturday. Number 6 Notre Dame is going to go and play at USC number 3. So 2 top 10 matchups or two top 10 teams matching up on Saturday. So that one could be a fun one as well. I have a final thought, though, about that most of us will probably not be worrying too much about any kind of basketball on Saturday anyway. Nope. But maybe we'll look after the fact and be like, well, that's an interesting score. So just some things to keep an eye on out there.
But it's a big game for the league. The league needs USC to win that game at home. It really does. Right. So. Yeah.
All right, Jeff, let's wrap this up then. What final thoughts do you have from today with our victory, 79-66 over the number 24 Stanford Cardinals? What do you have?
Well, best game of the year so far. You got to bottle it and try to keep coming out with that effort and that energy for for every game. I know that's not going to happen, but you got to try and put a little bit of a run here. You go back to the Atlantis tournament. They need to win the first one. They need to go 2-1, which is what we said in the preseason prediction. But they got, with where they were losing to Butler and Harvard, they in my opinion, beating Columbia is huge. Beat Columbia, go 2-1, or perhaps win it. But if you go 2-1 and finish third, that's a good weekend. But you can't go 1-2, and or lose to Columbia and go 1-2 or 2-1. You got to be on the positive side of the draw here. You got to be in that winner side of the draw for it to really to look good. So, but I think that they took a big step forward today. If Lexi's able to come back and play and give us some minutes next week, that's even better, because it gives us another guard, another person who's got some experience, and that starts to get back to the team we thought we were going to see.
Yes, that's right. Those echo a lot of the same thoughts I have, Jeff. What I want to see or hear or listen to or look for in these games down in the Bahamas are taking this vibe and parlaying it into better basketball for those at least back-to-back games. I still think we're going to be seeing some growing pains from this team as they figure each other out, how they figure out a new style of play without McKenzie, without a really dominant big down below, relying more on our guards. Who's going to step up? We saw that today. We saw that from Chloe. We saw it from Yarden, and that's who we expected to see it from. We need Shea to continue on the trajectory that she is. And I would like, hopefully, again, assuming Sydney's foot is well, I'd like to see a little bit more of her. It has got to be a team effort, in my opinion, from those 4 in particular. And that's what I think we need to see. And then can they not only ratchet it up, but can they keep that and be consistent with it? Because by the time they hit, the meat of the Big Ten schedule, and hit that Big Ten grinder in January, they're really going to need that. So I'm hoping we can figure out a way to get some more in there. Like you mentioned, Lexi, hopefully she can come back, because even though she's back in the game, we all know it takes a while to come back from those injuries, especially, lower leg injuries, and still being on crutches and just going through partial warmups today. It's going to be a long road for her individually, as well as trying to figure out her mix in the team. So there's a lot of questions we have, but today was great. And I think we just need to take that and build on it. So for me, be happy with the win for your 24 hours, get back to work when you get back to your next practice. So that is my final thoughts. Okay. So again, up next,
I gotta come back. I come back. We got music, pause music here.
Oh. Okay. All right. Up next. Now, As I mentioned earlier, we are kind of to be determined on when our next podcast will be. We are thinking about doing it on Sunday, November 24th. Again, we will not do one live after the Columbia game, but we might be back with you guys on Sunday, and we might wrap those first 2 games up from the Bahamas. Then we might wait and do all the Bahamas but together or not. So we're still up in the air. We'll figure it out. We'll make sure to keep you informed as soon as we figure it out. But excuse me, whenever we do, if you want to see us do the show live and be part of the live chat, make sure you subscribe to our YouTube channel, where you can find us at youtube.com/@BackHomeNetwork. You can be part of our private community as well. Find out more at assemblycall.substack.com. A special thanks to John Ringer of Rig Design for designing our logos, and a big thank you to Bob Thompson for our music that you heard throughout the broadcast. Most of all, thank you all for listening, and we'll be back to talk IU hoops again with you on Saturday. Until then, keep your elbow in, your eyes on the rim, and let's go Hoosiers.
Or maybe Sunday.
Or maybe Sunday. Who knows?
All right. Cool. A lot more fun.
Yes. Absolutely.
A lot more fun. So, well, let's hope football can go and be competitive on Saturday.
Yes.
Don't think we can get blown out. Don't think
No, I agree.
I think
you're not
excuse to drop them.
Yeah, you're not going to that game though, right?
No, I'm going to the Purdue game the following week.
Okay.
Going to the Bucket game.
That's right. Good.
No, I'm not going to Columbus. I can't imagine where those tickets are. But you know it's big when both Big Noon kickoff. You know it's big when Big Noon kickoff and game day are both going to be in Columbus.
That's correct. I did look just for fun because we don't have any set plans really this weekend. And I was like, I just couldn't justify the cost. I think I did find some that were around $230, but they were, way up in the corner and way up high. And then I'm like, and then we got to figure out dogs and hotels and, taking off work. And I'm like, nope, I just need to quit thinking about it. But I did get us on the list that if we do end up hosting, we'll have a shot at trying to get tickets for the home playoff game if we get there. So
they tell you it's anywhere from $100 to $500.
Yeah, that's right. I just said, give me your best available. So awesome. Well, that's exciting. And hey, I'm happy for our women. I hope that they can take this and parlay it into good basketball the rest of the year, and that the blip will be those 2 games on the radar, and this is going to be the normal. This is what it felt like Indiana basketball again. So I was happy to see it.
Yep. So, hey, I will let you go, and so we enjoy the rest of our Sunday.
Yep. Have a good night, Mom.
Tell Sean I said hey.
Take care, everyone. Yep. Take care, everyone.
See you guys.